And 3, 2, 1, 0. Hello students, welcome to Teach Together Try. Today we're looking at finding the odd one out. We're going to look at a bunch of fractions and a bunch of decimals, and 3 are going to fit and 1's going to be the odd one out, and we're going to have to work out which one is the odd one out. And to do that, actually, we're going to need to do some conversions. So we're going to be converting fractions to decimals and decimals to fractions, perhaps. We're going to need to do some simplifying, which is of course breaking down, simplifying, breaking down usually a fraction to its simplest form, to its smallest number. And we're going to see what's equivalent as well, which is basically a big word for equal, so which fractions and which decimals equal each other. And when I say simplifying, I did mean when we break down a fraction like from 5/10 into a half. That just means the numbers are smaller, but the value is exactly the same. So come with me on this exciting journey. It's going to be under 10 minutes. I know you're excited. Let's move along. Okay, and here we have 4 numbers. They're numbers. They're fractions and decimals, but they're still numbers. And 1 doesn't fit. 1 is the odd one out. I wonder if you know which one's the odd one out. Maybe you don't need to watch this video, but I'm going to show you how I would find the odd one out, and I hope it helps you. This is going to involve all the things we've talked about, and I've actually provided our videos already on conversions and simplifying and equivalent fractions, so I'm not going to go into too much detail there. I'm going to assume that you've got an idea about this sort of knowledge, because I have provided videos on those earlier, and we're going to move to how you would use all of this stuff here to find the odd one out. So let's have a look here. Okay, so I can see 0.6, 6/10, 6/20, and 6/100. Okay, there, and there. One of them doesn't fit. Now, it's a good idea to make them all the same language. Okay, if we can make them all fractions or all decimals, I think that's probably a good start. So that'll be the first thing we do, make them all the same language. And they're all fractions now, aren't they? So perhaps we could just make them all fractions. We'll see this is a fraction, that's a fraction, and that's a fraction. This one over here, this is not a fraction, so I think we should try to convert 0.6 into fractions. So we could have made them all decimals, but because there's 3 that are already fractions, let's make this one over here a fraction, and then we can really start to compare, because it's hard to compare when they're different languages. Okay, because decimals and fractions, it's all math. It's just a different language of maths in a way. So let's make 0.6 a fraction. Let's have a go at how we would do that. And I'll just delete that. And I might just put 0.6 down here. Okay, and so we want to turn this decimal 0.6 into a fraction. Well, let's do that. I always start off by putting it in the place value chart. So remember this chart? You've probably been seeing this since kindergarten, I hope. And of course, here's your units. And there's your tenths. Say that without spitting on someone if you can. Over here is your hundredths. Okay, over here is your hundredths. I don't think I'd spat on the whiteboard, whoops. Over here is your tens, okay. And 0.6 you've got to find where it goes on the place value chart, and I'm hoping you've got the prior knowledge to realise, well, there's 0 units, right? That means 0 units, and this means 6/10, so that goes there. And of course the giveaway is really the decimal point. As long as you put the 0 on the left hand side of the decimal point and the 6 on the right hand side of the decimal point down here in the place value chart, you've done really well. Now looking at that place value chart, you can see that there's 0 units. Yeah, good, because it's a decimal. Okay, it's a decimal fraction. And there's 6/10. Right, this is the important bit. There's 6/10. Can you tell me what that looks like a fraction? 6/10? I'll help you out, I'm showing you. 6/10 looks exactly like this. 6/10. Well, you should have learnt that already, but I'm happy to teach it to you now a little bit more. So, there is our fraction form of this decimal. So, if you'll be with me, I'm just going to rub out this up here and convert it into the fraction form, which is 6/10. And straight away I can see that this is safe because this is just the same as that over there, isn't it? That's 6/10 as well. Okay, I think I might just rub out this business. So if you just forgive me, I'm just going to do some rubbing. Okay, here we are. So straight away we can see that these two are the same. So in a way our challenge is, okay, if one's odd, if one's the odd one out, that means one of these does not equal 6/10. One of these is not equivalent to 6/10. The question is, which one? Now, these two are under suspicion, aren't they? One of these is the odd one out. Is it 60 over 100 or is it 6 over 20? And to do this, I think we've got to start to simplify these fractions a bit. Now, simplify just means we start to reduce them to simpler forms, okay? When I say simplify, it means, you can have 50 over 100, or you can have 5 over 10 equals the same thing. It's just about breaking it down into a simple form. You can actually have a half. That equals the same as all of these fractions. They're all the same value. 5/10 of the hamburger is the same as 50/100ths of the hamburger. It's the same as a half. Now, I think we've gone through that before now. So we're going to do a bit of simplifying of these other fractions to see if any of those actually equal 6/10, because we know that right now these two equal 6/10, so they're not the odd ones out. So let's look at 6 over 20 first. Okay, let's simplify it, and I hope you'll remember that to simplify you've got to try to find the biggest number that goes into to the denominator and the numerator, and then you just start dividing. And with fractions, whatever you do to the bottom, you've got to do to the top. So let's do that now. So a big number that goes into 6, it divides into 6. The biggest number that goes into both of them, you can't just say 6 and then 6 here and 1 down there. It's got to be the same number. Okay, so the biggest number that divides into 6 and 20, I think, is 3. So 6 divided by 3. Oh, no, it's not. It's definitely not. Sorry, 20 divided by 3 won't work. Wrong. You can't divide 20 by 3. Sorry, guys. Maybe you can help me out. What's the biggest number that goes into 6 and 20? What's the biggest number that divides into 6 and 20? Usually, 2 is a pretty safe bet. So let's do 6 divided by 2 and 20 divided by 2. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. 20 divided by 2 is 10, and so there's our answer, and it's not going to get any simpler than that. There's actually no number that will divide into 3 and 10. You've got it as simple as possible, which means that 6 over 20 can also be called or stated as 3 over 10, and you know what? We've definitely found our odd one out, because 3/10 is very different to 6/10, isn't it? Very, very different. Okay, but just to make sure we're right, let's have a look at 60 over 100 here. Let's simplify that. 60 over 100, and so let's simplify that. What's a big number that goes into 60? I think 10's a big number. 60 divided by 10 and 100 divided by 10. Remember, whatever you do to the bottom, you got to do to the top. You can't just go dividing and times in with any old number. You've got to do a number that works for both of them and the same number. So 60 divided by 10 equals 6, doesn't it? And 100 divided by 10 equals 10, which means, wonderful, that up here 60 over 100 can be simplified to 6 over 10, which means our odd person, our odd number, was actually this number here. And I think you recall that number was probably originally, I think it was 6 over 20. So 6 over 20 is the criminal. He is the odd one out. Now, I bet that was probably pretty complex, so I'm going to do one more, but you can help me with it, and we'll see how we go together